Michael Cohen destroyed by his own lawyer, Robert Costello, called by Trump's defense in their case in chief. And so we've got two witnesses that we're going to talk about today. The first one is a paralegal from the law firm for Todd Blanche, doing some great work over there. The next one is Robert Costello. Robert Costello, we know, former lawyer for Michael Cohen. He's going to come out here and say Michael Cohen is a liar. And the judge is not happy with him at all. Fireworks in the courtroom. In fact, Kaitlan Collins says the judge got so mad that they threw the press out of the courtroom. Here's what she posted. Says, wow, the judge is clearing the courtroom after dressing down Robert Costello for rolling his eyes at this ridiculous judge and muttering about his rulings. Oh, geez, this guy's whacked. The press is pushing back at this and court officials are yelling. And so we've got comments and reactions from everybody, including Alina Habba and Elie Honig. But let's get back into the trial courtesy of inner city press reporting. On the day they're back from a break, government's case is now done and it is time for the defense to begin. Mr. Blanche, says the judge, does the defense wish to present any evidence here today? We do, Your Honor. The defense calls Daniel Sitko to the stand. He comes in. Daniel, promise to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help God? Yes, I do. All right, please be seated. Where do you work, Mr. Daniel Sitko? He says, Blanche Law, great law firm. And you work for me, says Todd, right? He says, yeah. And what did I have you do here for us today? Well, very simply, I was asked to create a summary chart of all the phone calls. And is this the chart you created? He says, yes, I did. You recognize it? Okay, we offer this as evidence. The judge says, accepted. Now, Mr. Sitko, what is this here? Please describe. He said, well, that's a list of the phone calls. We've got spreadsheet on the screen, April 16th, 2018 to June. What do we have here? He said, well, there's a total of 75 phone calls. Wow, 75. He said, can you tell me about call 48? Yeah, sure. Call 48, that took place on May 27th, 2018. It was 96 minutes long. Yes, this was. Okay, no further questions. Thanks for being here. You're doing a great job. See you back at the office. Prosecutor Rebecca Mangold, for the government, stands up. Asked Daniel, says DHC is just the general firm line, right? So they're trying to get phone calls to Costello. Yeah, it was. So anybody could call that line, right? And some lengths of the calls are 0, aren't they? And some are double counted, so there's less than 75 in total, aren't there? He says, yes, that's true. And so no further questions. So, and I don't know what that's about. Maybe recalls. So like somebody calls at 4:55, no answer. Somebody calls at 4:57, no answer. They count that as two separate calls. But you say that's kind of the same call, right? You know, they kind of called the same time twice, so it's kind of double counted. He says, yeah, that's fair. No further questions. Now the big witness comes in. We had questions about whether the defense was going to call him or not. They've now done it. Your Honor, the defense calls Robert Costello. Gasps all in the courtroom. And all the press was gasping. Everybody, oh my God. Then there's a sidebar. So he says, oh, wow. All right, so come up here to the bench. Now, the judge says, jurors, I apologize for this, but I'm going to need you to step outside. This judge knows Robert Costello is going to be damning for the case, so he kicks the jurors out so he can talk to everybody here. Jurors leave. And the judge starts whining. Oh, gosh, you know, I wish this would have been raised earlier. They're talking about some evidence. And the government says, Your Honor, if you admit this, you should only be restricted to 2 questions about it, and that's it. Trump's defense attorney, Emile Beauvais, is back. Todd Blanche has a seat. Beauvais says, Your Honor, no. We are offering this witness to rebut their allegations. They said that Michael Cohen testified that there was a pressure campaign upon him by President Trump. In fact, he said Costello led it. And so we provided notice days ago that we were calling him. And I intend to elicit many facts about how their relationship existed. Judge says, I don't think so. You're not getting into any of that. Beauvais says, Judge, absolutely, I am. Like, that's why he's here. And the judge says, well, I'm going to step down for 5 minutes, okay? Do not leave this courtroom. So the judge is freaking out. You can feel it because they called this guy and he's going to wreck their case. Trump is leaning over, talking to Beauvais, probably laughing. Says Blanche is now holding up his own head with his right index finger. And he's laughing. He's like, this is crazy. This day's wild. This judge is insane. So they're all just like laughing, eyes wide, I'm sure, going wild. And the judge is probably freaking out. So the judge comes back out after his 5 minutes, probably calls Barack Obama. What should I do right this one? What do you think is a good idea, Barack? Hey, Barry. So he tells him, he comes back out. He's like, finally, I talked to my masters and here's what they're telling me. He says, I'm not going to allow a trial within a trial about some supposed pressure campaign. So we're not talking about that, which is just insane because Michael Cohen brought that up. Michael Cohen allowed that. And so we're not even talking about anything about the retainer agreement either. So you can bring in Robert Costello, but he's not allowed to talk about anything that matters. So get the jury. Blanche says, Your Honor, can we get the witness first? He says, no, the witness has not been sworn in. So the jury comes back in and they recall the witness. Your Honor, the defense calls Robert Costello to the stand. Clerk swears him in. Mr. Costello, you promise promise to tell the truth, the truth, and the truth, of God? I do. Please be seated. Please state your name for the record, sir. He says, Robert J. Costello, Costello. I'm from Nassau County, and from 1975 to 1982, I was a prosecutor at the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. And this guy was not just an attorney, he was an assistant United States attorney. So he's an actual government prosecutor. So do you know Michael Cohen, says Beauvais? He says, yeah, I do. And hopefully he's communicating to the jurors saying, yes, I used to be a prosecutor literally for the federal court. Do you know Michael Cohen? Yes, I do. In fact, I met him on April 17, 2016 at the Regency Hotel. And what happened when you got up there to meet him? He says, oh gosh, Mr. Cohen was pacing. He was manic. He said, what's my escape route? He was out of control. And did you have a conversation with him about how you'd represent him? He says, yeah. And did you give him instructions on cooperation and how to cooperate? No, I informed him. Objection! Sustained. So before the answer even comes out, objection sustained. Costello's going, huh? Okay. So I informed him of something, but no, he said to me, he said, I swear to God, Bob, I've got nothing on Donald Trump. Nothing. He said, I don't know why they want to jail me for a couple of effing NDAs. They don't want to jail you, Michael. They want to jail Trump. That's the point. Then after a series of sustained objections, there's a sidebar. Okay. So the government, objection. Judge is sustaining all of them. They go up, they have a sidebar at the bench. They come back. Costello says, what did Michael tell you about how he created this NDA? Costello says, well, Michael told me that he did it on his own. And Robert, I want you to look at this email. Did you send this email to Michael Cohen on April 19th, 2016? He says, yeah, I did. Why'd you send it? He says, well, it was announced that Rudy Giuliani was joining the president's legal defense. And how did Mr. Cohen respond when he learned that news? He said, oh, that's great news for Rudy. And Mr. Costello, what do you recall about objection? Sustained. Costello says, geez, Judge, geez. The judge says, sorry? What did you say to me in my courtroom? Because he got cut off before the question was even answered. What do you recall about objection? Sustained. Jeez. Beauvais says, did the term back channel objection sustained? Okay. Robert, what did you mean by objection sustained? Costello's shaking his head. He's like, unbelievable, this guy. What the hell's going on? Judge flips out. All right, can the jury step out, please? Judge is furious. Jurors step out. He laces into Costello. Mr. Costello, I want to discuss decorum with you in my courtroom. You don't get to stand up here on my bench, and you don't get to say geez when I make my rulings. You understand me? And you don't give me a side eye or roll your eyes. Clear the courtroom! I want the press out of here. In a half-emptied courtroom, Costello remains on the stand, now filling up again. Don't you disrespect me in my courtroom. I'm not going to tolerate that type of conduct. Now, let's get the jury back in here, please. Jury comes back in. Beauvais, the defense says, all right, Mr. Costello, I want to show you defense 1008. Now, in this, you said, I will not pester you. If you want to talk, you know how to reach me or Jeff. Costello says, yeah, Michael Cohen called me. We talked for 96 minutes after I sent that. And this call with Michael, that was 46 minutes, wasn't it? Yeah. And did Michael Cohen, did he ask you to call Rudy Giuliani? Yes, he did. Now, I want to show you this June 13th, 2018 email, Mr. Robert. And he says, what was happening here? He says, well, Mr. Cohen was complaining about Rudy Giuliani. I told Cohen I would pass the complaint on to Rudy Giuliani. And when you were doing all this work, Robert, whose interest did you have in mind? He says, Michael Cohen. Obviously, he was my client. I was working for him. And did he refuse to pay you for your work? Yeah, he did. Now, we didn't sue. It wasn't enough money. It wasn't worth it. So we just let it go. And have you appeared in the media about this case? He says, yeah, I did. I was at the House testifying last week as well, which was outstanding. We covered that, of course. No further questions. Thank you, Robert. Government prosecutor comes up and says, Mr. Costello, didn't Mr. Cintron, who was Costello's law partner at the time, didn't he ask Mr. Cohen to meet with you? Costello says, well, the email speaks for itself. It's right there. And didn't Cintron say that he represented Liana Helmsley and George Steinbrenner as well? He says, yeah, it speaks for itself. It's right there. You can see it. He says, well, I didn't know Michael Cohen from a hole in the wall. I don't know anything about this guy. Jeff Cintron is a real estate lawyer, so he just showed up. Okay, so but you knew at the time that Mr. Cohen was the personal attorney to the president, right? You knew that it would be a high-profile case connecting you to the president? He says, no, I didn't know that. Well, wouldn't you put it up on your firm's website? He says, look at this. You did put it on your website. He said, well, this is from me to my son, April 20th. Michael Cohen wrote to me. My son said, congrats, Dad. This is his response. Mr. Cohen asked us to go to the Regency. Well, he had been raided by the FBI, right? Costello says, well, I wouldn't say raided. I mean, they executed a search warrant. He was suicidal and he was acting manic after that fact. So it was just an execution of a search warrant. Man, it sounds like a former prosecutor indeed. But you can understand, right? Costello says, can you talk into the microphone, please? He was putting on quite a show, okay? Cohen was putting on quite a show for all of us. And when you testified to the grand jury, Mr. Costello, you called Cohen a drama queen. I said, I didn't know if he was. You don't like drama queens, do you? He says, I don't know. And he went with another lawyer, didn't he? The judge says, please approach. It's a sidebar now. And so they break for the day. Prosecutor Hoffinger says, well, Your Honor, I have about 30 or 45 minutes left with him. And Trump's defense says the redirect will be short. And so the government or the judge asks the defense, okay, so you'll rest early tomorrow? And he says, yeah. Before we exit for the day, Your Honor, Todd Blanche stands up and says, Your Honor, at this time, since the government has rested their case, we believe that it is appropriate to ask for an order of dismissal of this case, asking for a directed verdict or a judgment of acquittal, different vernacular for the same thing. We request an order of dismissal. Your Honor, there is no evidence that the records were false presented here by the government today. Mr. Cohen did legal work in 2017. He admitted it. There is no false business filing at all, and there is no evidence of any intent to defraud anyone that has been presented here in this case. Trump turns to watch Blanche as he argues. Your Honor, there was no discussion at the October 2015 meeting of any catch and kill. Never happened. Karen McDougal, Droopy, she never even wanted her story out. And Stormy Daniels, AMI wanted no part of it. So Mr. Cohen entered into an NDA. There's no criminal intent here from Trump at all. And we didn't just catch Mr. Cohen in a lie. He has a history of lies. Now he's lying in this courtroom too. And his lies are irrefutable. And the judge says, oh yeah? You say his lies are irrefutable. You think he's going to fool 12 New Yorkers? And the government says, Your Honor, a rational juror could conclude that the business records contained false information. It's insufficient if the defendant set in motion the scheme that led to the false records. It is sufficient. The judge says, well, I'll reserve judgment on this case. Todd Blanche says, Your Honor, okay, fine. But what happened in that October 2015 is what politicians do all the time. How was Ms. Tarasoff supposed to book this? Cohen changed his story. They had to notify us. The government says, he didn't change his story. And the judge says, okay, stop it, both of you. Again, I'm going to reserve a decision. And so we are done for the day. Court is adjourned. Woo! Robert Costello giving Judge Mercan the old side eye. Jeez, this is insane. And explaining to the jury that Michael Cohen's a liar, that the phone call and the emails show Cohen was pumping Costello and Rudy for help, not the other way around. Caught in a lie again by his own lawyer with their own document. Now we got some reaction. Elie Honig is saying Cohen is committing a worse felony than Trump and hasn't been charged. And Alina Habba answers the question for us. Will Trump testify? We'll see what she says. But here's Elie Honig, and he clipped this one. Shout out to Ryan Saavedra for clipping this one for us. He is now sharing what Elie Honig said on CNN.
I think the revelation, though, this morning about the theft of $30,000, which was doubled because they covered his taxes, so $60,000, it came out in a glancing, unclear way on direct. It came out like a bomb earlier today. I don't know how much they can do to fix that. It just, at a certain point, it is the fact Michael Cohen did steal this money. And what makes that really so important, Wolf, is it's not as if Michael Cohen was just stealing on the side. That'd be bad enough. The problem is he was stealing from the exact reimbursement at issue in this case. So the prosecution's core argument is Donald Trump knew what that $420,000 was all about. He was totally read in on it. Turns out Michael Cohen was stealing from him within that $420,000.
Does Michael Cohen's admission that he stole tens of thousands of dollars from the Trump organization potentially opened him up to further criminal
No, of
prosecution?
course
It's a great question. The answer is not anymore because the statute of limitations has run out. But it's a very fair question to ask. Gee, folks, of the jury, they gave him a free pass. He committed larceny. It's a higher degree of a felony than what Donald Trump is charged with, yet they gave Michael Cohen a free pass, even though he's now admitted that he stole what amounts to $60,000. It goes to his credibility. It goes to his relationship with the DA.
Absolute criminal. And the criminal prosecutors put him on the stand, made him the star witness of the entire case. It's shocking. They should all be charged with crimes for suborning perjury. So here is Alina Habba in the House, and she is going to be explaining whether Trump will testify or not. And she's going to give us a very Alina Habba answer here, okay? But Trump is not going to be testifying. Hopefully Secret Service jumps in front of him if he thinks about it.
As far as where this all goes next, what would be in the thought process to testify or not testify on the part of the former president?
Well, he's got to listen to his attorneys. It's not as much what he wants to do. We know he wants to testify. He is willing. He is able. He is nothing to hide at all. He's absolutely ready to tell the truth. Frankly, I think the truth is already spoken. He was in the White House while somebody in accounting booked a legal fee payment as a legal expense. It's pretty quick, and it would be a pretty short testimony as far as the questions that would need to be asked because he had no part in this. The reality of the situation is that we have this judge, we have this court, and we have a DA who has been politically motivated since the minute he decided to run for office. Remember, this was not brought twice, not by Cy Vance and not by Bragg. The only time he decided to bring this case was after President Trump announced that he would be running for re-election. So the real question is one that would be discussed within the legal team, and of course, we'll discuss with our client.
And of course, the other person who was responsible for reigniting this entire saga was Matthew Colangelo, the Biden prosecutor who was at the DOJ before Cy Vance left and Alvin Bragg came in before Mark Pomerantz and Kerry Dunn left. And then this thing got reignited by Colangelo, all because they're political hacks who are trying to take out their opponent. So Michael Cohen destroyed by his own lawyer, calling him a liar because he is, and CNN admitting this case is bad. So we're going to be here continuing to cover this. Of course, we've got some time until we have closing arguments. We're going to have more litigation, more arguments about other things before this case closes out, including the jury instructions, the charging instructions. We'll get those very soon. And so thank you for subscribing, my friends, and liking this video and following us wherever it is you're watching it. Thanks for inviting a friend or family member to come check out our channel. YouTube does not give us any love going out, so they don't say we're authoritative. So your invites to your friends, sharing a short, sharing a video is just awesome. We really appreciate that. We also want to invite you to become a member. If you're looking to get some extra content, dive into some other things that we can't get into here on the live show. We do members only streams in the morning, 6 days a week if we can get to it. And we'd love to have you join us. Join us at watchingthewatchers.locals.com or on YouTube as a member, and we'll see you back here on the next one.